Listener, the gift. This is not a guide, not a coaching session, not a 5-step plan to give less. This is not about gratitude, not about people who take too much, not about learning to give less. It is about something quieter than that, something most people have felt but never had a name for. Part 1. The giving. Think of the last time you helped someone. Not because you had to, because you saw what was needed and you were the one who moved. That is not a small thing. Most people do not move. You did. You have always been that person, the one who shows up, the one who carries, the one who stays. There is a kind of giving that no one sees, not the dramatic gestures, the quiet ones, remembering what someone mentioned once, preparing for things before they go wrong, making something easier for someone else without them ever knowing it was you. That work exists, even when no one names it. At some point, giving stopped being a choice. It became who you are. You do not think about it. You just do it. Because not doing it would feel like becoming someone else. That is not a burden. That is just how you are built. Part 2. The waiting. No one told you to keep score. You did not decide to. But somewhere, quietly, a small part of you was counting, not adding numbers, just noticing whether it was acknowledged, whether it was returned, whether anyone noticed at all. That is not a flaw. That is a human thing you never agreed to carry. It was never dramatic. No fight, no moment. Just a small shift. Someone took what you gave and moved on. No pause. No acknowledgement. Just next. And you felt something small, quiet, and then immediately told yourself you should not have expected anything. That moment, that is what we are talking about. It was not a decision, more like a gradual adjustment. You still helped. You still showed up, but something in you had become slightly more careful, slightly more measured, slightly more protected, and you probably did not even notice until now. Part 3. The system. No one sat you down and said, when you give, you are owed something back. But you learned it from how people responded when you helped, from how things felt when they did not, from 1,000 small moments that added up to a belief you never consciously chose. Giving creates debt. That is how it works here. Not everywhere, but here. There is a way of giving that does not create an account. You give, and that is the end of it. not as a performance of generosity, not as a strategy, not as a way to be seen. Just you had something. Someone needed it. You gave it. That version of giving cannot disappoint you because there was never anything to wait for. You are tired, not from giving, from the accounting, from quietly tracking something that was never written down with no agreed terms and no way to close the books. That kind of tiredness does not go away with sleep. It goes away when the account closes. Part 4. The moment you noticed. There was a moment, maybe recently, maybe a long time ago, when you noticed something. Not a revelation, more like a quiet recognition. I have been waiting for a long time for something that was never coming, not because the people were bad, because no one told them they owed you anything, and maybe no one told you that you were keeping track. They were not ungrateful. They just moved on because no one taught them to stop and name what they received. No one taught you that you were waiting for them to. Two people, both doing what they learned, neither of them wrong, just operating in the same system from different sides. You did not decide that giving creates debt. You inherited it from a world that runs on exchange, from relationships where giving was strategic, from a culture that rarely separates generosity from transaction. It became so familiar, it started to feel like you. But it was never you. It was just what you absorbed before you knew you had a choice. Part 5. Giving without waiting. This is not about giving less. That would be losing something real. The part of you that gives is not the problem. It never was. The account is the problem. The quiet ledger. The weight. Those can go. The giving does not have to go with them. Not, they did not appreciate you. But they did not know they were supposed to. Not, you gave too much. But, you gave while the account was still open. Not, you should have expected less. But the expectation was something the system placed inside you without asking. And you do not have to keep it. You will give again. Probably today. Probably without thinking about it. And maybe this time there will be a small moment where you notice the account trying to open, and you can choose to leave it closed, not as discipline, not as self-sacrifice, just as someone who is learning that what you give was never meant to come back. It was always meant to leave. Close closing. You have always been someone who gives. That is not the problem. That was never the problem. The only thing that changes now is what you do with the account. You can leave it open, or you can close it and give anyway. If you have ever given something and quietly waited to see if it mattered, write one word below. Not for me, for the person scrolling after you who has been doing the same thing without a name for it.
You were the one who moved before anyone asked, before it was spoken. You saw it, and you carried it as if it was always yours. Not the big things, not the visible ones, the quiet work, the unseen parts, the small adjustments that made everything easier. At some point, it stopped being a choice. You didn't decide, you just became the one who shows up, the one who stays. You gave without thinking, and somewhere inside, something stayed open, waiting. Without a name, no one told you to keep track, and still something in you noticed. Not numbers, just moments, a small shift, almost nothing. Someone took what you gave and moved on. No pause, no recognition, just silence. You gave, and something in you stayed open, waiting, without knowing why. It wasn't anger, not disappointment, just something quiet that didn't return, something you felt and immediately dismissed. Not because they failed, because they never knew. Not because you needed, because something in you was still expecting something unnamed. You kept giving, you kept moving, but something in you became more careful, more distant, without you noticing. You give, to return, not to complete something, just to exist.